Hello and welcome to another episode of Scouser Tommies on Anfield Index. I'm Jim Boardman, and as always, I'm with Jay Reid. And well, for me, it's not been a bad start to the season at all. For all the games I've seen this season, we've won. We've won well. Only seen us sort of concede one goal as well. Sadly, though, that's not the case for all of us because I just happened not to be able to see the game against Forest at the weekend because I had stuff on and I could not bring myself to watch any sort of recording of it, to watch Match of the Day, even to kind of even sort of look for a quick YouTube clip or anything. I kept telling myself I'd do it before we did the podcast, and I didn't. And then watched the game last night against Milan. It was much better. So, yeah, as far as I'm concerned, it's been a perfect start to the season, but I suppose we don't want to talk about it too long, Jay, but it was a good start to the season before that. 3 games, then an international break. We were on a high. And then whatever happened against Forest, I've not seen it. But from everything I've heard, it just feels like we were sort of, I don't know, we were just maybe caught out a little bit, maybe not taking it as seriously as we should. I don't know. It just doesn't seem, I don't know, the prep, maybe did we have one eye on the Champions League and think Forest were a pushover? I don't know. And from what I can gather, though, it's enough went wrong that there's going to be some lessons that we've learnt from it, I hope.
Yeah, it's probably a blessing that you've not seen that game, and yeah, you just sort of picked the rug up, sweep underneath it, and pretend it didn't happen. And you know, only when you look back at the end of the season, say, "Oh, yeah, we lost that game. I forgot about that one." Because we do have a few of them games across the season. And let's hope, you know, at the time it felt a lot worse, and you know, the joy of being a good, big, successful club is games come round quick and quick in the calendar. And, you know, 3 or 4 days later, you know, against Milan, we got the opportunity to correct ourselves, and we certainly did that from the weekend's performance. So obviously you didn't see what happened, and I was in presence of the ground to see actually what was going on, and it just sort of felt as though, not the cliche of it, it was one of them days, but it did feel like, you know, as the game was progressing, you know, we were never really sufficiently enough to say, yeah, we're on top and we deserve it from this game. And, you know, to come away with a draw, even if it finished 0-0, you know, the positives you could have taken were, well, you know, we've kept another clean sheet, and we got away with, you know, not getting caught out there, but we didn't. We got caught out, and you have to credit Forest for what they did on the day. You know, they came, they were compact, they forced us into playing a certain way, which played to their strength. You know, they basically didn't allow us to sort of settle on the ball at any time. They did create a low block and let him in behind the ball, and they were forcing our wingers. That's what you want to call, you know, Salah and Diaz at their positional setup. You know, they were forcing them into field where, you know, they like to come in the mean anyway, because that's where the stronger foot takes them. But they didn't really allow too much space around the outside to get in behind them and forcing the play in field, so there was more bodies to deal with it. You know, they were physical, at times overly physical, and a stronger referee than, you know, Michael Oliver wouldn't have allowed it to get as far as it did, and surprised, you know, McAllister actually come out in the second half because he spent more time on the floor than he did on his feet. For a lad who's already carrying a couple of knocks and bruises that we can obviously tell he's not 100% fit. He got the rough treatment, and, you know, Michael Oliver gave it the old wave on. That's part of the game business. But, you know, if anyone sort of got a little bit rough with a couple of the English lads, then of course it was stopped, and, you know, you can't do that. And, you know, we had to look at the foul count to see that, you know, it was very lopsided in one favour than the other. And, you know, we're not known as a rough, dirty team, so that sort of tells you something that needs to know about Michael Oliver's performance. But, you know, they had a game plan, as I said, and, you know, it's the age old, you know, you go into a big team away from home, you try and quieten the crowd, and you did. And I could sit and talk about how the crowd is quietened for a long time, because I'm not overly pleased with how things have been handled on that front, but the crowd were quiet. They stuck in the game, they made it difficult. And then, come 60 odd minutes or whatever, they introduced pace in the attack and placed the counter attacks and banged the issues, and they actually realistically could have been 2 or 3-0. And we never really ever looked like scoring. So, as I say, we were probably lucky in the only respect that we got away with a 1-0. We would have been lucky had we have even got a 0-0 out of it. But I imagine Slot and his team would have learned more from that game, and again, last night's performance at Milan in going to go down, and the way we reacted and the way we actually seen the game out. If the game was to begin, after that injury break, instantly after the goal, basically there was only one team in that game. So I would imagine he's learned a lot in the last 3 or 4 days than what he's probably learned in the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season when things were going more swimmingly. There's players he's used across both games, some just in one game or the other. And he will have learned a lot about that, and I'd imagine, it's been a priceless experience. Obviously, his first night in the Champions League with Liverpool, going to Milan and getting a successful result, but also coming off the back of poor performance and defeats at home in the Premier League, it now, allows us to look forward to this weekend's game at home to Bournemouth. With the idea that we seen we can be bad and what can happen in this league, and if you underestimate teams, you do them at your peril, and that was the outcome. And I'm sure we won't underestimate Bournemouth because they are a semi-decent side. They've got quality, and I watched their game Saturday night against Chelsea, and they were unlucky to come out losers in that game, but they will pose a threat, a slightly different threat, I'd imagine, to Nottingham Forest in terms of how they initially set up. But they will attack, they will press, they will harry us, and they will cause us problems if we allow them to. So we've got to be on our game, and if we are on our game like we were against Milan, then hopefully the results is a more positive one than last time we graced the turf at Anfield.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying there about the crowd as well. I mean, I was, as I said, I didn't see the game, but I'm also thinking to myself, it's the kind of game where we're playing a team where you can just imagine we're not sort of shouting out. We're not kind of like, we're sort of as fans almost. And I say that as a group rather than as individuals. We sometimes play these games and we turn up as fans thinking, right, come on then, this is just a game. Let's see if we have a bit of entertainment. It'd be nice if we win it 5 or 6-0, won't it? And it kind of almost expecting that you can just sit back and you'll get a 5 or 6-0 scoreline without actually having to do anything. And yet, reality tells you that's not going to happen these days. It's unusual for that to happen. You certainly need to get the first goal, don't you, to make that sort of thing happen. And that's kind of... So we've got another game coming up at the weekend that could kind of have the same kind of feel from people, unless they can kind of just say to themselves, look, I'm lucky enough to get a ticket to the game. I really need to take my A game as well. I need to get, I need to treat this as if we are playing the Manx, as if we are, as if I am lucky enough to be in, a European stadium on a European night as an away fan, trying to outshout the opponent. Because like last night, I mean, from watching it on TV, we were loud all the way through. I mean, they tried all kinds. There was a guy on the megaphone that just, I mean, at times I was listening to it, I wondered if he'd forgot he was actually still on speaker kind of thing. It sounded like, I don't know, he was in the bog or something, either singing to himself. But, they had a bit of a process as well, so the ground wasn't full. But that place was emptying out before the end. We made the fans miserable, and I think that's something we've done for years. I mean, we did it at Old Trafford not long ago. We've done this for years. This has been one of our strengths in away games, certainly, that you just make the away fans miserable. You just shut them up. You just take all the wind out of the sails. And when you do that, the opponents on the pitch in front of you are doing the same as well. And we've just not got to let it happen to us. And it's easy saying that, when you're watching something and you're getting fed up of it, it's easy to kind of just, and you can, you end up sat there, arms folded, not even stood up anymore, just waiting for something good to happen and getting more and more frustrated. But I just, almost we need to kind of remind ourselves, don't we? If we're at a game, just keep going, keep supporting. If not, yeah, you do pay a lot of money to go and watch a game. And yeah, I can kind of understand if you pay a lot of money for something, you want it to be a good product. But the thing is, it's not a product. It's different. It's football, and you're part of it. And when you've had the luck, whatever it is, to get yourself into the ground, you've got to do your bit. And if you do your bit, then maybe what you see will be as entertaining as you want it to be. It is a bit of a blip. I mean, that manager as well, he's someone we've had problems with in the past. I would say he's been able to put a team out against us in the past when he was at Wolves. We've sort of struggled against them at times. He's one of those guys who I think you can really analyse the game, him and his staff, look for your weaknesses. From what you've said, they found them. And from what you said, Slot, hopefully he's got something to learn from. It's interesting when you say about the team as well. I'm looking at the lineup, and it's pretty much, if you were seeing that, in isolation, you were trying to predict the lineup for the game, it's pretty much what you would have gone with. You would have gone, if all the players have had a couple of weeks off, this is the lineup you would start with. It's pretty much the sort of first choice 11 that you might imagine. I know there's a couple of places up for grabs, maybe with the front men and stuff like that, but on the whole, that's pretty much what you'd expect. But then he was talking after the game last night about how he wanted to start Gakpo at the weekend, but Gakpo was more tired because he played 2 full games for Holland, and Diaz hadn't quite played as much, so Diaz started. And I wonder if that's kind of caught him out, because he's done all his planning, waiting for the players to come back with international break, and then found certain players aren't quite up to scratch. That's something else he's got to get used to, isn't it? I mean, Klopp used to hate the fact that generally we were playing 12 o'clock kickoffs after international breaks, but 3 hours doesn't make a lot of difference, does it? And I think there was also some talk before the game from a few different players, not just ours. I think Mo Salah said something. There was definitely someone from City was saying something about the extra 2 games in the Champions League. It's getting to be a bit too much now. And I think, we don't want to sort of go too much on about it, but, against Forest, maybe that international break, when they've not had any time off since the summer, really is playing a part in it as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're not massive fans of international football here on this podcast anyway.
No.
And, with all due respect to England, the calibre of opposition that they faced, Finland and Ireland, was it worth really the journey? Was it overly competitive games? Probably not. And it is a bit of a strange statement from Slot regarding Gakpo, and I think he's kind of put himself in that corner himself by not using Gakpo enough, probably across the first few games, and being quite rigid in how he set the team up with the same lineup. And yes, there's for and against in these conversations and discussions and arguments, weight, continuity and all that. It works, but keeping players sort of isolated and not keeping them too involved will then lead to the fact that when they go away and play international duty games, that they're not 100% match fit and sharp. So when they've got and played 290 minutes, it's probably taking a lot more out of Cody Gakpo than it's probably taking out of Luis Diaz, because of the sharpness of Diaz and the games and frequency of performances that he's been putting in, where Gakpo was getting 15, 20 minutes here and there, coming into games when oftentimes the game was won in those first 3 games. And instead of playing in third or fourth gear, which we were at times, we were basically cruising along in second, and the game was basically more about management than actually performing and trying to win. So you can sort of see where that came from. But obviously the other side of the argument is, the first 3 games went swimmingly, and the lads who went out there, done the performance and got the job done.
We had a week between games as well, didn't we, each time?
Yeah, we also had that. So I think now he's going to learn, the Premier League competition is a lot more demanding than the Eredivisie, in all due respect to those teams in that division. And obviously add on top of that the Champions League, which he experienced with Feyenoord, but what a different kettle of fish to Feyenoord in terms of, you see a fixture, and let's just say last night's game of Milan at home to Feyenoord Well, Milan would have went into that as strong favourites, and Feyenoord would have went there with most people's mentality of, we'll give it a go, see what we get. If we get, if we get a draw, fantastic. If we get a couple of goals, great. If we nick
just a way out, isn't it?
If we win a win, if we win, it's a brilliant experience, and everyone goes home super happy. Whereas you put Liverpool's name just alone, regardless of what we're doing on the pitch. You put the Liverpool name in replacement of Feyenoord in that fixture, and all of a sudden, with the big fish, with the big boys coming to town, and everyone's up for it, unless you say about the man with the megaphone and whatever. It was a raised performance off the field from their fans, because they want to see a raised performance from their team on the field. And sometimes, you've only got to look back to last season with Atalanta at what can happen when, you put Liverpool in front of a team and it's like, right, well, we'll prove ourselves even more because it's Liverpool. And Slot's going to have to learn that, we are the team with a tiger on our back in pretty much every fixture we will play.
Even like you get to the FA Cup and stuff later in the season, which I know we'll come back to how we feel about being competitive in that, but that's the home in rude awakenings, isn't it? The big teams thinking they could just turn up with half a team.
And we're a week away from home fixture against West Ham in the Carabao Cup now.
Yeah,
we love a day out at Wembley. We love an adventure in the cup. What I wouldn't actually be against this season of not being overly fussed if we went out to that cup. And we'll discuss teams' performances in cup competitions a bit later on the podcast. But I think this season, with a couple of areas of the squad where they're a little thin, it might not be the worst thing if we went out to the domestic cup early when we've got a compressed fixture with extra Champions League games before Christmas. Is probably the way of dressing it up. You could possibly free up a couple of midweeks there where they may prove priceless as the season sort of rolls on towards Christmas, where we might just think, oh, you know what, do we want to play a Carabao Cup 4th round fixture away at Preston, or I don't know, I'm spitting to see on my head, Fulham or something like that. I can't honestly say who's to. Or would we possibly have the week off and allow a couple of bodies to recover, say in mid-October when we need them? I wouldn't be against just sort of being nonchalantly not too fussed if we went up that competition next week, but that's where we are.
It's a good chance, isn't it, to say, let's get some of the players who are knocking on the door for being part of the regular rotation, get them some minutes. If they don't get minutes this weekend, let's
that's the other argument for it, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, give the keeper a chance, because we've got him for another season at least. Let's get him some minutes. Let him play in the cups like he did last season and stick with that. Kwanzaa, he started the first game, then he's kind of been dumped since. Let's give him a chance to get his confidence back. See what Conor Bradley can do. We kept told Joe Gomez after it looked like we were going to lose him. Can we sort of say he's a member of the squad that we can bring in when we want to just rest some legs and get, reduce the minutes our main men are getting? Curtis Jones, I mean, let's have a look at him. Although, to be honest with you, as I'm looking through the bench, there's not loads of names on there, but, we need to see Chiesa play a game. We saw a bit of him last night, but, we didn't. It was a cameo. We need, and to me, I would be saying that, again, but, this coming weekend, you need to kind of rest. You definitely need to rest some of the players. A lot of those have just done 2 games in a row. But definitely, I would say next Wednesday, first priority to me would be making sure every player who's knocking on the door gets a game, and let's just see what they can do. Give Endo a start, for example. It's his chance to assess them in a proper competitive game with his own eyes. The friendlies were all well and good, but it's totally different playing West Ham on a Wednesday night, isn't it? To playing, in England than playing some half-fit team abroad somewhere.
Yeah, I would class as a free hit in that regard. Like, you want to see these players and give them an opportunity. I'd say, well, go out there and prove why I should have you in my starting 11 rather than bringing you on for 15, 20 minutes here and there. but at the same time, it's not the end of the world if we go out. Is probably how I'll approach it. Not obviously from Arne Slot's point of view and the players, they'll want to win because, you know, it's a competitive professional nature to do that. But just as a fan of how I see this season, I wouldn't be too downhearted if we went out. But, you know, the opportunity knocks for those lads, and if they go through, then yeah, you know, it does present opportunities, you know, for more fixtures and more games going forward. What I wouldn't like to see is, you know, next Wednesday's team sheet drops and Trent Alexander-Arnold's playing and Alexis McAllister's in there and Gravenberg's in there, you know, lads who've been really, you know, pushed to capacity very early on in this season, playing a lot of minutes. And that's what I was trying to put forward in a way of, you know, I'm not too fussed about the competition as a whole in terms of making sure we've got, you know, the availability of players. But again, you know, a squad of our side probably with quality in a lot of areas where we've got numbers, we probably wouldn't be, you know, too hurt if players got games. So yeah, it's a catch-22, but I think it's a free hit as well in terms of, you know, we go out there, we see what comes, because we are going to need these players, and as you rightly say, I think, and I hope that Slot learns from the weekend just gone against Forest, where we rolled out the same 11. I think it was the third time in a row. Obviously, the only change actually from the first game of the season was probably Canase coming in anyway. So it was almost the same 11, 4 games in a row. And, you know, we probably cannot do that. We probably do need to drop a couple in here and there. And I was pleased with what we did last night in regards to, you know, we just dropped a couple in Gakpo and Tsimikas, and just tweaked it. And okay, the start weren't great for Tsimikas, but on the whole, of course, he did all right, and but Gakpo did very good. And there's no harm this weekend in saying, okay, well, could we bring back Robertson and Diaz for those two players who were dropped in? But maybe we could, you know, jot it out and maybe take out a Gravenberg or a Szoboszlai or a McAllister in midfield and pop in a Jones, and, you know, you could make an argument to say, well, could Conor Bradley get a sniff at right back or not? I mean, with the game coming up against West Ham, you don't know, but, you know, maybe just a couple of changes and just keep tweaking it. And I think that's what Klopp did quite well when we had consecutive games, you know, every 3 or 4 days. He would just maybe 2 or 3 changes either, and just keep players on the toes, keep them fresh. So if you've got a run, I think we have a run of about 6 games or something like that in 21 days. You know, out of those 6 games, you know, players will start 4 to 5, but then other players will come in and start 2 or 3 along that period, and you're just sort of keeping it on the toes, keeping them ticking over and keeping them fresh. I think, you know, that we are going to have to utilise the squad in that respect.
Yeah, you've got to, rotation isn't a case of saying, right, here's my Saturday league team, and now here's my Wednesday League Cup team, and I'm just going to change everyone, and then Saturday back to my league team, then Wednesday Champions League, I'm going to change a load again. That's not how it works. Or worse still, you don't say, here's my Saturday league team, here's my Wednesday, same players again, here's my Saturday league team, same players again. To me, you just merge them, you kind of blend it from one game to the next. And I mean, Kostas Tsimikas could argue maybe last night that if he was going to give any excuse, that he was rusty at the beginning of the game because he's not had a lot of minutes this season. And whereas if he'd been kind of getting some minutes in more games, then maybe that rustiness wouldn't be there. I mean, you're letting players off a bit using rustiness, but the thing is, it does make a difference. The more minutes they get, the more up for it they are, and the more of a hunger they have for it. And I can't help but think sometimes there's going to be players sat on the bench thinking, what's the point? I'm not going to get a game here because he doesn't change anything. And he does kind of leave it late as well with the subs. You can get away a little bit more without rotating your starting lineup if you're sort of taking players off after an hour. And then, you know, someone else is getting half an hour. But a lot of the time he seems to kind of wait till sort of 75, 80 minutes to make changes, which to me is it's good because, I mean, I've seen stats, can't find them now. A lot of injuries happen in the last 15 50 minutes of a game or whatever. A lot of injuries tend to happen then. Apparently, players just playing that bit too long. So, I suppose there's a little bit of help, but making it 60 makes the difference. But we'll see. On the whole, I think if we'd have said after this number of games, this is where we'd be, we'd lose one game, we probably wouldn't have expected it to be the Forest game. But I think we'd have been pretty happy with the start. We're still in touching distance to the top of the league. But yeah, the Champions League last night, bad start, but it felt like, as I said, I didn't see the game on Saturday, so it felt like I'm still not sure if that really happened. I'm waiting for someone to sort of say to me, it's all a joke. We actually won 8-0, but no, everywhere I've looked, it does seem to say we lost. But apart from that shaky beginning, which, let's face it, you're not awake first couple of minutes, and it's not like it's the first time it's happened against them with us. We sort of got caught out. It was a great finish, to be fair to the lad. But after that, it just didn't take us long to take control of the game. I wasn't watching it last night very often thinking at all that I was worried about them winning. Once we got back to level as well, I felt it was ours to win. And in some ways, I'm surprised it only ended 3-1.
Yeah, I mean, Salva will be disappointed in getting himself on the score sheet.
The post twice, and he had another one that was heading for the post, but it was saved.
Yeah, I mean, he would work. Compared to, as I say, if you didn't see the Saturday performance, was best be described as loose in many ways. But last night it was tight, and he looked on it, and he should have been rewarded with a goal. But you don't always get your rewards in football. As you say, if the game had begun after that first goal and the injury, I can't remember which one of them, whether it was the keeper at that point, because he was down multiple times, and in the end he had to go off. But if the game had begun on 6 minutes in, when we actually probably restarted it properly, I think we were dominant, and I don't think Milan actually got a shot on target or threatened a goal probably until the last 7 or 8 minutes, when they had a small flurry of attacks. And from the 6 minutes till about the 80th minute, there was only one team in the contest. And I did see a clip on Twitter this morning about the tactical tweaks that Liverpool made early on in the first half, which basically I felt watching the opening exchanges that we were really, really open and really lucid in field, and it looked like we were outnumbered. It looked like we had loads of space for them to run into. And I seen an image where basically we were getting sucked into Salah pressing the keeper with the centre half, and then the keeper was dinking it over to Theo Hernandez, and basically he was rampaging down the left, and Gravenberch was trying to cheat across and cover the space or Szoboszlai, and Rafael was left 1v1 with Trent, and we were, we had two men on our asses, so basically they were running through midfield and they had runners onto us, and then we were sort of creating our own problems, whereas, there was a tweak made where, Trent sort of played between Theo Hernandez and Rafael, and Nate went across then to deal with Leao, and, what a game we had. And then Van Dijk is more than capable enough of dealing with Rafa on his own, which he did. And it just allowed us to slightly shift our team setup forward and towards the right a little bit, and negate their left-hand side, which was clearly their strength. And from then on in, we controlled, their outlet ball was limited, and they were forced to play balls that they weren't comfortable playing, and we picked them off, and, everything sort of then went in our favour. And, there were so many positive performances that night compared to what happened on Saturday. It was not necessarily just Jekyll and Hyde, but it was a much more, professional approach, much more controlled approach. We weren't rushing things too much. We were picking our moments. We would know when to step in. We were clinical as well, actually, when we went forward, and to say the chance we created, we were unlucky. And it was nice to also see goals from set pieces, because we've got the two big fellas at the back who were decent in the air. Like, you'd say Virgil's more than decent in the air. He's more than a threat than most. And to get a couple of goals from set pieces was nice to see, because, they're a good source of goals. You only got to look at Arsenal and how much they utilise, set piece moments to their advantage, and it's something that we should do more of because we've got players who can deliver a dead ball, and we've got players who are useful in the air. So, it was nice to see goals come from that area of the pitch, and also, Slot highlighted Szoboszlai as a player who just needed to put more goals in this game, and we all seen the clips before we signed him of his finishing at RB Leipzig, and his eye for goal, and we've seen a couple of spectacular ones from him in a red shirt last season. But he's right in saying if he's going to play that high up the field and arguably be the first man behind the initial line of attack, he needs to be on the end of things more, and it was nice to see that come to fruition quite quickly as well, that he got himself on the score sheet. I think Salah would be quite annoyed that he was about 2 yards behind and ready to tap it in himself, given the unlucky, situations he'd had with hitting the bar and post and whatever a couple of times. But the goal was the goal that killed it. And it's nice to come back with a win in your back pocket. How much that means in this context of Champions League, I have no idea, because, the league is mentally extended, and I don't know how it's going to play out. I think it's probably best that you don't even look at the Champions League table, if that's what you call it, until Christmas, when 6 games are being played, and say, right, well, we've got 2 games after Christmas, which is odd. But it is what it is, and then we see what we need after that. Because it's just a crazy format. You'd imagine there's 18 games being played across 3 days, which again seems even madder. Of them 18 games, the likelihood is 12 to 14 teams are going to win. So 12 to 14 teams are all going to be on the same points. And then after the first game week, it's only probably going to be Bayern Munich at the top because they scored 9 on goal difference, and the rest of them are just all going to be the same. So it's a crazy concept. I don't really understand it, because the Champions League was fine as it was, but UEFA will do things that they think is best for football when actually everyone else thinks it isn't, and that's just kind of how football works these days.
Yeah, there's too many fingers in the football pie or whatever. There's too many people with power that can say, right, we want to make more money out of our bit of the pie. We want to make more money out of what we do. Who cares about everybody else? And that's what UEFA have done. And if football was to kind of run by people who all sort of worked together and said what's best for the game, then the Euros and the World Cup and Copa America and all the sort of international tournaments would all be sort of done. All the international breaks would be done with thinking about players themselves and fans, not making sure that every single competition that runs is seeing people at the best, rather than seeing people feeling a little bit bedraggled because they've been victims of their own success, maybe. Because, if you're a decent player playing for a decent team and in a country that's doing well, you play a hell of a lot of football, at an amazing pace. And I was just looking at the table. That when you said the table, I just brought it up on the screen here. I'm just like scrolling down and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. 36 teams in a league. I agree. We're not going to be able to make sense of it for now. In a couple of years' time, we might be able to know. It must be the sort of like Roy Hodgson used to know how to deal with little group stages. Now you could win one, draw one, lose one, and maybe still, be in a strong position for the next 3 games and things. It's not like that. And there's going to be some weird sort of inequalities in a way, maybe, because, did Bayern Munich have the easiest team, or did they play really well? Either way, their goal difference is mad. Is every other team that's kind of, if you like, one of the top-end teams going to play as bad a team from the other end and get a chance for similar goal difference? And if it comes down to goal difference, that'll be interesting. And the other thing that's weird as well is, we played him last night, you've always got, it's been in my head since I was a kid when we were watching European games, that you play a game away in the first leg, or you've played them away first in the group. Every team you play, you're going to have them back at your place in a couple of weeks or whatever. And we're not, unless the draw works out some way that we played them further down the line in semis or something. That's it. We've played them this season and we're done. Which is just a strange way to be, just not playing the home and away legs. But as you said, this is what it is. This is what the game's been turned into. This is what the Champions League would be played like, and we're in it. Let's make the most of it. And I think wherever we work out with the leagues and stuff, getting 3 points every game is going to give you a good chance of finishing in that top 8, which means you get to have your feet up for a couple of Champions League weeks in the new year. You don't have to play in that sort of first knockout phase. What was I going to say as well was about the set pieces you mentioned, and I think I'm wondering now with Slot whether we will try harder with set pieces. I think we'd lost our way a little bit. I mean, corners at times we're getting, when you think of the highs of Trent's corners in European football, definitely, and some of the corners we'd seen, early on this season and stuff, and, free kicks that were sort of, I don't know, we're going through the motions at times. It feels like, let's just tune them a little bit. Let's just make them better. Let's not, overcomplicate them. Let's just make them work and use our strengths. And Konate and Van Dijk are definitely strengths when it comes to set pieces. And we're all liked as well. I'm not sure if it's been all over the world, but Amazon have taken some of the rights for the Champions League for this season over here. And they had loads of Amazon little adverts that come on if you go onto the Amazon app. And Virgil has been star of them, including doing his little wiggly fingers thing under his chin on the ads as well. So I just thought it was fitting last night that he got a goal, and I was waiting for him to cut to him doing that bit of his little trademark celebration. And another thing about the footies last night on the TV, the commentator we had kind of said that Dom had almost like luckily scored. He sort of collided with him. But when you watch the replay, it was a hell of an effort from him to just get his, to get himself in the right shape to just knock that in. I thought that was a great finish, but the commentator was making out it was a bit of a bit of fortune.
Yeah, I mean, you were lucky you got Amazon because my process of watching the game is a die, you want to say it. Resulted in me watching on Premier Sports in Ireland. So,
all right. It's good sometimes how the signal drifts over, isn't it, from Ireland?
Yeah,
when the weather's right. I know.
Yeah, I mean, if you sent the nice weather, thanks for that as well. It's in this Irish summer that would happen. But that I think it was Gary Breen might have been on commentary, and I couldn't tell you who the other guy was with him. But going back to the studio for the thoughts and analysis of Kenny Cunningham, Shay Given, and Neil Lennon, was insightful in a different way. Is what I'm going to say. But yeah, regarding Szoboszlai's goal, I think it was an adjustment that meant, he did get something on it, but he got something on it to make sure it was going in the direction, because he busted the gut to get himself in there. In terms of how that goal developed, it was a loose pass from their centre half, which Gavin Bear cut out about midway through our own half, and we ended up releasing Gakpo down the left, and a cliff cross in, and it was basically on the 6-yard line, wasn't it, or even further ahead towards the goal that Szoboszlai ended up connecting with the ball. But the speed, obviously, the counter attack and them getting in there, as I said before, was good to see in what Slot's obviously asked of him, saying, look, you've got this engine on you, you've got this ability, get on the end of things more, and put things in the back of the net, and he did. But yeah, it just, the fact that Amazon had a little slice of the pie, and I think how that process works is because there's 8 game weeks, as it's now known, isn't it? They get the pick of the Tuesday night game, and that's their feature game for the week. So I would imagine we're probably not going to feature maybe any more on Amazon on a Tuesday night, because I'm not sure how many of our Champions League games fall within that sort of time frame for them allow us to be picked. I know our next game against Bologna falls on a Wednesday, which is at home. Just having a quick scan of our fixtures, we're away to Leipzig on a Wednesday. We're home to Real Madrid on a Wednesday. We go to Girona on a Tuesday, but it's a 5:45 kickoff, which is obviously the early window, which won't allow for that to happen. And then after Christmas, we are home to Lille on a Tuesday, which could possibly put us in that position to be shown on the Amazon channel. And then the Wednesday is our last game against PSV, which off the top of my head that's already been signalled to TNT Sports.
Wednesday, so
it's a Wednesday, but I think I read somewhere that a bit like, the last day of the Premier League, all games will kick off on the same day at the same time. So, all 18 Champions League fixtures will take place on that Wednesday at 8 o'clock across Europe. So, for any jeopardy that needs to take place and anyone who needs to just sneak into the top 8 or the mass amounts of playoff positions that you can possibly end up in. I think that's the idea behind that. Whether, it actually is worth anything, we will find out come the end of January when the weather will be freezing and probably no one will actually give a shit more than the fact that can we just, watch this game in the comfort of our own home with the heating on, rather than, traipsing out to Eindhoven.
It's on the wrong app. Yeah, tracing onto Eindhoven or just sitting on the wrong app. I just found an article actually. It says Amazon's games up till the end of November are us. They're doing Arsenal v PSG, Arsenal v Shakhtar, and they're doing us v Bayer Leverkusen on the 5th of November and City Feyenoord at the end of November. So that's 5 fixtures. So presumably,
they're just rotating the English boys, sir.
Yeah, that's it. That's their idea of picking the games, and maybe, fair play to them. It's just more money to find, isn't it? Just to watch Champions League football, it's what, 30 quid a month roughly for TNT Sports, and 10 quid a month roughly for Prime, and then wherever you pay for Sky,
exploitation.
Yes, unless you're lucky and the weather gets you those satellite signals drifting over from somewhere else.
They're means grace. I mean, a lot long may continue that jet stream, I think they call it, don't be the weather. Strong jet stream living on the Irish coast where I live.
Yeah, I mean, they said that you don't get John Champion and Alan Shearer, but, beggars can't be choosers and all that.
No, I mean, give me Gary Breen any day.
Kenny Cunningham. And the other thing is, it's good to be back in that league as well. It's good to hear that theme tune playing out before and all the rest of it. That's something we lost it last season. We had to play in a different competition, and we thought maybe we've got a chance with it. This, I don't know, if last night's anything to go by, it should be a good season for us. Like you say, it went wrong Saturday, but things go wrong in football. The league table's not that bad. You're going to lose games over the course of a season. It's a shame to get one done now, but we've got one done. It's to start, I'm really looking forward to how the season's going to go. I mean, we've already really talked in a way about what we're expecting at the weekend and what we're expecting next week in terms of lineups. We want rotation. We want to get these players to last us the whole season. I mean, when you look at the subs bench, there's not a massive load of choice. We've not got, if we want to rest the 2 centre-backs for the League Cup next week, I'll be talking Gomez and Kwanzaa, which, but basically I think that's all we've got, isn't it? So, it's not the summer window didn't go great, and that's the worry, the summer window didn't go great, but Slot said he's got plenty of good players. My worry then was, has he got enough players to last all season? So let's hope that we do rotate. And I mean, you sort of said you're not too bothered if we don't put everything into the League Cup, and I totally get where you're coming from. Same here. If we're in that final that's not even next spring, but next February, whenever it is, I'll be as happy as anyone to see us lift that trophy. It's a trophy, it means a big thing, but obviously I'm the same again. I don't want us to risk everything else for that competition. I hope we can start rotating and doing it well. I feel though that just across the park, there's probably people saying stuff like, we didn't really want to do well in the League Cup this season. We needed to sort of just be more focused on our league position this year, get ourselves up the table. And, it's important that we aren't dragged into another relegation battle again. And I can't keep my face straight as I'm saying this.
You're putting all the cliches out there, but it's just not actually selling it to me. They want to focus on the league and the bread and butter and that, but that's not really work for them, has it? And if anything, the cup, I would imagine, was a welcome distraction. I mean, their only victory this season came in the cup against Doncaster, the mighty Doncaster Rovers. And even yesterday, it was like, there was a positive vibe about, we can get through tonight Southampton at home, we should do them. We'll get our name into the next after the next round, and you'd only 3 or 4 games effectively. I think it's 4 games from that point. 4 games, and you can be in the final at Wembley, and that is the joy of the League Cup in terms of it's quite a short process to progress through and get to the final stages of it, as we know ourselves many times. But for a team like Everton, for a team like Southampton, who they played last night, league positions might not be what they want them to be, but cup run can often be a welcome distraction. It can be an opportunity, like we said, to see other players in and around your squad, give opportunities, let players stake a claim for the place. Maybe then, positivity feeds into your league performances, and, a successful cup game, winning a league game straight after good Austin Leeds, a little bit of a positive bounce. As it transpired, it won't.
Because I don't think there's much bouncing at all, is it, at the moment?
No, I mean, you're sort of trying to bounce a piece of concrete with Everton, which is, not going to happen. But I actually forgot you were playing, because, why would you think about Everton playing football when Liverpool got a Champions League fixture against AC Milan? Until someone messaged and said, seeing the Everton games once a pennant, I was like, was it? What they were playing. Let's just have a look on Flash Score. At that moment, I think it was 3-3 and they'd scored all the pens. So I just left it on. And penalty after penalty went in, the first 5, both teams score. 6 penalties, Southampton score. 6 penalty, Everton miss. And you think, go on, who's missed it then? Go on, Ashley Young. And you think, couldn't have been a better player, because they ate him as much as we ate him. And, it's like, It was hard to keep a straight face this morning when you see the couple of Blues in work and be like, "Was he the first last night? Yeah. That's what I did, didn't we?" And they were like, "Fuck off." And that was basically the answer. And we're like, "Yeah, why did he take one? Why was it him? Why did he take one?" And you're like, there's this clip doing the rounds on social media of, the Everton fans as he's lined up to take a penalty, basically abusing the poor fella. Making sure they were trying to will the goal in, or where they willed him to wish that he missed. I don't know. They're a strange old breed, but
just the collective noise you get about.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine what the noise was when they actually missed the penalty last night. I'm sure it was not one that was under the entertainment category anyway, or the before 9 o'clock censorship. So yeah, it's just good to see that even at the weekend, when we slipped up at home, yet again, they done their special 2-0 in front and blew it. And it was surprisingly quiet on all platforms of, WhatsApp, and even going into work on Monday. It was like, we can't even laugh at you for losing 1-0 to Forest, because we blew it again.
Yeah.
And then you look at the fixture list, and they go to Leicester this weekend. And I said, well, that's arguably a 6-pointer already, because they're one of your contenders to go down this season. And if you don't really turn up against them, you've then got Palace and Newcastle at home, which, will be challengers themselves, because they're not bad sides at all for the next international break. You could be looking at the next international break, which is stupid again. We'll go there in October with 0 victories, and potentially 0 points going into that, or maybe 1 or 2 if you're lucky that you picked up a draw here or there. But they could be looking at 7 games into the season, 8 games into the season, no wins, maybe a point or 2 on the board out the domestic cup. That was the easiest one of them to win. The season's effectively over, but it's great.
It's not over though. I mean, they're gonna need 2 dogs this season, aren't they, to try and get to lift into, to lift through the crowds and sacrifice or whatever it is they do to try and stay up. I mean, I don't know. Well, let's see. They might turn it round, but it's just a perfect storm. They've not won a game, I think. They're just Oh, yeah, sorry, they did win that cup game that they won, sorry, apart from that massive fixture.
But again, it's meaningless when you've gone out in the next round, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, say, you know, you've won a £10 bet on the horses, but you put 20 quid on to win your £10. And in fact, you probably end up losing.
And it's against the team just above them in the league, with also 0 points.
It's a joy to behold, and as we always say, you know, sometimes as Liverpool fans, we have moments where it's not going so good, or you know, you have a result which makes you feel a bit down, or performance which you think that's just not us, that's not good enough. That can really piss you off. You know, coming out the game on Saturday, it was a feeling of like, you know, that was something I've not seen for a long time at Anfield. You know,
bubble burst sort of feeling.
Yeah, like it was quite deflating, and you know, it took us back to some really dark times. Not the darkest of dark times, but you know, like when basically we were bullied and we were second best to Everton, but then you come home and you sit down, and the 5:30 fixtures fell against Everton, and Everton go 2-0 up, and you see,
you think a cat face went on Monday.
This isn't going to be good on Monday morning, but then you fast forward an hour, and all of a sudden you think, I can't wait till to work on Monday. And that's basically how it went.
Yeah, that's it. No matter how bad it gets for us, there's always Everton, and it's just that's how it's been. But you know, don't care how they do. Really, it's just a bit of a laugh, a lot of a laugh. But yeah, more important for us, and I think as we've said today, I didn't see the awful game on Saturday. I feel like I shouldn't do anything about trying to catch up and see it now. I'm not going to do. I'm still going to believe it never happened, because we had some great matches before it. We had a great match after it, and all being well, a great match this weekend. I'm not sure what Everton podcasts are talking about now, but you know, you need a laugh. Maybe you can go and find one. But I hope you don't. I hope you go and find some more content on Anfield Index. There's loads of stuff on here, not just me and Jay. There's loads of stuff. So I hope you have a good listen to something. But as always, thanks for taking the time to listen to us. Do appreciate it. Thanks to Jay, and we'll be back soon.